Hello and welcome. We're joined at the India Today and Business Today studios at the World Economic Forum at Davos by Parth Jindal, the Managing Director of JSW Cement and JSW Paints. Thank you very much, Parth, and thank you for taking our time to join us here. This is your first Davos, so how has this week been like for you?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind. It's a bit overwhelming. You get to see so many people, heads of businesses, heads of state, so many of our own chief ministers, all in one place in this tiny village. So I try to meet as many people as I can, and it's a bit like speed dating. It's like boom, 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 and you just keep meeting people and you know, making connections. It gives you a great sense of what the world mood is like, what people are thinking of the world, what people are thinking of President Trump, what people are thinking of India. So it's been awesome. It's been an incredible experience.
Let's spend some time talking about some of the things that you've been working on. One of the things that I heard you say was for JSW to do EVs on its own, outside of your tie-up with MG Motors. Now, you already have a joint venture with MG Motors. Why is it that you're now thinking of going solo, and what is it that you have in mind?
Yeah, no, I think if you look at the India opportunity set, I think it's an incredible opportunity. And today, EV penetration in India is only 2%. Last year, 100,000 cars got sold in India. And government has an ambition to reach 30% by 2030. That would mean close to 2 million to 2.5 million new energy vehicles will need to be on the road. While our partnership with MG is something that we are very excited about, and we are going very aggressively. We're launching new models every 3 to 6 months. But a joint venture setup has its own limitations. And while we are navigating that, we felt that we don't want to lose out on this opportunity. And hence we thought that we should establish our own car, the JSW car, and hopefully within the next 18 to 24 months we'll have a JSW car as well on the road.
We've seen the Mahindras make a big splash with the born electric EVs. So when it comes to your vision of what a JSW car looks like, what category of the market are you aiming at, and what vision do you have in mind?
Yeah, I think affordability is still a very, very big part of the game. So customers in India definitely look at affordability, they look at lifetime ownership, as well as range. So I think that's very important. We want to play in the 10 to 25 lakh rupee range. That is going to be our sweet spot. Already with MG, we launched the Windsor at a very attractive price, which even after all the slew of launches at the Bharat Mobility, we are the most affordable EV in the market. And I think that's what's going to push penetration in the country. So even with the JSW car, we are looking at solutions for affordability and solutions for range. And one of the things that we are proposing to the government is to look at plug-in hybrids favorably and to reduce the GST on plug-in hybrids. Because while the charging infrastructure is developing in our country, in order to get the range anxiety out of the consumer's mind, plug-in hybrid is a great transition technology. So at JSW, we will be focusing on battery electric vehicles as well as plug-in hybrids.
One of the things that JSW and MG Motors have been pushing is battery as a service as a concept, right? Do you want to give us an account for how that is going, the adoption that you're seeing amongst the Indian consumers? Because typically in India, the mentality is to wish to own whatever it is that you have. So how is the concept that you're pushing of battery as a service playing out in the market?
So today, battery as a service was a very new concept. So many of the mainstream banks did not back it. So we had to go to NBFCs. So Bajaj Finance, Hero Finance and other NBFCs supported it. And now the mainstream banks are coming online. So Kotak is coming online, HDFC is coming online, SBI is coming online. This will help in adoption. What we are trying to do with battery as a service is educate the consumer that think of the battery like you think of fuel. When you drive an internal combustion engine car, you get mileage of, let's say, 12 to 20 kilometers per litre. So that's anywhere from 8 rupees to 5 rupees a kilometer you are spending on fuel. Plus you have the oil change, plus you have the servicing. In EVs, you don't have any of that. We are saying take the battery and pay 3 rupees per kilometer. So think of the battery like you think of the engine, and pay monthly 3 rupees a kilometer, and hence the price which is 13.5 to 16.5 with the battery suddenly becomes 10.5 to 13.5. So the market expands. You're able to attract a customer who is buying a 10 lakh rupee or a 12 lakh rupee car to look at a much bigger car with much better features and create that parity. So even though still 80% are choosing to buy with the battery, they are now understanding that, okay, the additional 3 lakhs that I'm paying for the battery, I'll actually make back very quickly. In less than 2 years, my payback will come. And that's allowing the numbers to increase, and that's how we hope this year that EV penetration in India goes from 2% to at least 5%.
So, unlike China and Europe, EV penetration hasn't seen a hockey stick-like increase. It's growing for sure, but there are also, continuing to be concerns around range anxiety, consumer mindset. To what extent are those getting addressed, and what do you think can be done to speed up the rate at which EV adoption happens in the Indian market?
So first of all, I think there were not enough models in India. So the consumer was not getting enough choice. And as a result, they were, preferring to go with ICE vehicles. Second, you have to understand that a lot of first-time consumers are buying cars today in India. And they want an all-weather car. A car that can drive in the city, a car that can drive on the highway, a car that can take them from Mumbai to Pune, a car that can take them from Delhi to Jaipur, anywhere. So they are buying ICE vehicles. What we are now trying to show them is, with the larger battery packs, with so many new models coming out, Mahindra has launched, Maruti has launched, Hyundai has launched, and obviously MG has launched. Suddenly this year the customer has a lot of choice, and the city customer is suddenly looking at EVs in a very big way. Because you can't drive more than 50 to 70 kilometers in a day anyway in any of India's cities. And the range nowadays, you can get anywhere from 300 to 500 kilometers, all companies are offering. So I think things are moving, things are changing, and this whole concept of lifetime cost of ownership is coming in, and people are realizing that EV is much more affordable than a normal car. The other thing is that the entire auto sector is working as a collective on charging infrastructure. You have large OEMs working on it, you have the government working on it, you have the auto sector working on it, and you have startups working on it. So I do think that we will see a huge hockey stick in terms of growth this calendar year because of the amazing number of launches.
Outside of auto, on the cement act, SEBI recently gave a go-ahead for JSW Cement to come out with a 4,000 crore rupee IPO. How do you see that play out, and what's your message to potential investors watching in terms of deployment of that capital?
Yeah, so we're very excited that SEBI gave us the green light, and we hope that within the next 3 to 4 months we would IPO the business. We have a very strong pipeline to go from 20 million tons to 60 million tons over the next 5 years. Ours is an integrated story. The waste product that comes out of the steel plant, the slag is getting used by us to make cement. The waste product that comes out of the thermal power plants or fly ash gets used by us to make cement. We are the most eco-friendly cement company in the country, and it's our endeavor to take our market share from about 3.5% today to 10% over the next 5 years. It's a very, very exciting space, and we are...
It's also getting very competitive and crowded.
Yeah, very competitive. But we are using the proceeds of our IPO to pare down some of our debt, as well as bulk of it is going towards our expansion in North India, where we're setting up a greenfield site in Rajasthan. So our endeavor is to become a pan-India player. And to your point about it being so competitive, it is only players who have at least 10% market share who will, according to us, survive in the long run. The marginal players are all going to get squeezed out, and we're seeing a huge bout of consolidation. And I think the large players are purposely keeping cement prices very low so that the marginal players get squeezed out and consolidation happens. So if companies like JSW and others want to survive in this industry, we have to scale, and hence we're going in for an IPO so that we get that liquidity and that firepower to scale this business.
So what are the potential new acquisitions that you have on the horizon, without specifics but just broadly?
No, I think on the inorganic side, today our balance sheet isn't strong enough to compete with the likes of the big boys. Once we IPO and we have that liquidity, then we can look at opportunities. The geographies that are very exciting today, Northeast is extremely exciting. We saw what's happening with Ultratech and Star Cement. There are opportunities there. Central is another big opportunity, and North continues to remain a big opportunity. So while we have greenfield ambitions in these geographies, if an inorganic opportunity comes up in any of these areas, post the IPO, we'll be as aggressive and as competitive as the big boys to fight for it.
It's interesting that you're thinking of yourself as not in the big boys club. That's relative, but for most people watching, you're amongst as big can get. So one of the interesting things about Parth Jindal is outside of what you're doing in the field of business, you're also supporting sports in a big way, and there's a lot of emotional energy, money that you put into India's Olympic mission, and that didn't really go as per plan. Lots of narrow misses. You had an opportunity at distance now to look at why we had so many heartbreaks. What are the lessons you've learned, and what are you doing to try and ensure that in time for the next Olympics we're able to plug those little gaps?
Yeah, I think if I look at our performance in Paris and if I compare it to Tokyo, we had one less medal. You can argue Vinesh is very, very sad, but we should have had the same number of medals. But we had a tremendous number of fourth places, and we were competitive across sports. Badminton, we were very competitive without a medal. Table tennis, we were very competitive without a medal. Archery, we were very competitive without a medal. So there were very fine margins. Obviously, we didn't get a gold medal. Neeraj got a silver. So as a result, we were much lower on the medals table as we were in Tokyo. But I think the message is very loud and clear that we need to broad base our sports in India. We can't depend on these 8 to 10 Olympic disciplines and go and only depend on them to get medals for the country. We need to go beyond that. And I think the sports minister, Sports Authority of India, there's been a lot of internal inquiries as to what went wrong. But what I would like to, the way I would think of it is that this was actually our best ever Olympic performance. Yes, the medals table didn't show it, but the number of fourth place finishes and the 6 medals.
What's the difference? I mean, between being, say, fourth and coming third or second? How do you plug that very, very, very minute gap?
I think it's a lot to do with your mentality. It's a lot to do with your mental fortitude, and it's also got to do a little bit with luck. But what I'm trying to say is that you can't, like there were stories where a single player went with 8 support staff and 4 sparring players to Germany for a camp before the Olympics. The state machinery, the government machinery cannot dedicate disproportionate money to few athletes. We need to broad base. We need to create competition across the spectrum, and we need to have 10 medal prospects, not in every field, not one. Okay, one, if she doesn't or he or she doesn't do well, medal gone. We cannot be like that. It's like we look at cricket as one example, right? If there are like 100 players waiting in the wings for any opportunity, and they come, they score runs, and they go out. So this stardom culture, this superstar culture that we have needs to go away, and we need to broad base the number of athletes we support as a nation.
It's also getting a bit competitive when it comes to backing Olympic sports. Lots of big groups, Reliance, Adani, everybody getting in. But this is good competition.
Absolutely.
This is good competition, but the point that you make about players at the top having too much funding and getting a bit complacent as a result, and those at the bottom still struggling to find the resources required to compete, I think is important. Do you see that change or not really?
No, I do think that is going to change, and in terms of corporates coming into Olympic sports, it's amazing, and it's truly a welcome sign. The government allowing it in CSR is also a phenomenal step that they took in the right direction. And I think the more the merrier. In terms of athletes, I think the government is aware of this. The government wants to broad base. But apart from the athletes getting broad based, even the sports needs to get broad based. And that's one recommendation that I presented in the recently held roundtable, where the first time the sports minister of our country called the corporate sector and took our views on what we can do better. This can only lead to improvement.
Sure, and this is a good fight to fight, more than anything else. And in the success of a mission lies India's success. So I thank you for taking our time and joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Parth.
Thank you.
Thank you.